When you get into shaping parts by hand with tools like a draw knife and a spokeshave, you start to hear terms like facet and Arris being thrown around a lot. So let's talk about what those two terms mean. So strictly speaking, a facet is just a flat plane. So this leg has 4 facets on the top, and then 4 more facets on this taper, and then a facet on each end. I find the easiest way to think about facets is as faces. This face, that face. Once the surface changes direction, you have a new face. So an Arris is where any two faces meet. So it's this sharp edge between this face and that face. So as you get into more complicated shapes, you have to kind of loosen your definitions of what a facet and an Arris are. For a part like this, I consider this entire surface a facet, even though it changes direction. And the Arris is just where any of these two faces intersect. So we can use facets and Arrises as we shape a part to help us keep track of the rough shape as we work from a coarse shape down to a more finished shape. Or we can use facets and Arrises to add interest to a piece like we do on the top of this leg for this stool. The leg is actually round, but we've cut these facets on the top, and it gives it just a little bit of extra detail where otherwise it would just be a plain circle. Sometimes you have an Arris that appears between two different curved surfaces. So the facet, in this case, there may not actually be a facet here. This is actually a cylinder, but you can see an Arris where this surface and that surface meets. So anywhere you see sort of a hard line between two adjacent surfaces, that's where you're talking about an Arris. As you start working with these parts, as you start shaping them, anytime you use a tool to cut into an Arris, you make a new facet and a new Arris. So if you were to look at this piece here, when it was square in cross section, we had an Arris floating out in space and 2 wide facets. We cut 1 new facet, and now we have 2 Arrises, 1 on either side, and an extra facet down the middle. Later on, we cut another facet on either side, and the facets and the Arrises start multiplying. And a round part, when shaped by hand, before you start to sand it, is essentially a surface with an almost unlimited number of facets and Arrises all the way around it. So you can leave that texture if you like to have that on your parts, or you can grab some sandpaper and sand that out if you're going for a more polished look.